Hey, this is Augie, Augie's Locker Room. When you come to the store, you're going to see things that you've probably never seen before unless you've been to a museum. Great items that go back to the Rockney era to the present. Website, augieslockerroom.com. Visit us here or the website.
It took a while for the Fighting Irish. It looked pretty grim in the first half, but Notre Dame kept battling. Tyler Buckner, coming back from his injury, kept battling as well. Notre Dame's ground game eventually takes control with the offensive line leading the way. Notre Dame wins a 45-38 game over South Carolina here in the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. It looked grim, Tim. I mean, it looked grim. It looked like South Carolina was the aggressor, which they were from the outset, and were the better football team. But in the second half, it was pretty much all Notre Dame.
Yeah, it was pretty much all Notre Dame except for a 100-plus yard interception return touchdown by South Carolina. That really would have been the turning point of the game. Obviously, if the Irish didn't respond, they went right back to the ground game. The offensive line and running back started churning. Look, Tyler Buckner played the best game of three interception and 2 interception touchdowns college sophomores ever played. He actually showed a lot of promise in this game. We mentioned going into the game, he struggles on third down passing. He throws interception touchdowns on third down. It kept happening again. But boy, did he battle back. He's a tough runner. He made some throws when I was saying, don't throw the ball anymore. The slant to Braden Lenzy's the big touchdown pass to Braden Lenzy. You got to feel good for him. It was a good day for the Irish coming back. It was a lot of grit and one of the wildest games I've ever covered. It was a frantic game to cover. Not that anybody cares, but that was wild to be up there and watch all the things happen.
Yeah, I mean, we felt frantic along with it. I'm sure Notre Dame fans did as well. Tyler Buckner, I mean, you know, you're right. Three interceptions, an MVP award, but who do you give it to other than perhaps
5 touchdowns?
Yeah, 5 touchdowns. He actually said he accounted for 7, which he did with the pick sixes, and Marcus Freeman said bad play call. I mean, there's no other way to look at that. Throwing a slant on the goal line with a chance to go up 2 touchdowns. But Tyler Buckner throws for 274 yards. He was inaccurate in the first half. Ended up being 18 for 34, 274 yards. He rushed for 61. He threw 3 touchdown passes. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he's going to face some competition here coming up really soon. But good for him. I mean, he took a step forward when it looked like it wasn't going to work out very well for the Irish tonight.
And on the flip side, Al Golden's defense, and Al Golden probably deserved a lot of criticism in that first half. The 24 points scored. I know one was a remarkable trick play, but that was with his defense out on the field. Right. He had a chance to call timeout. He told Marcus Freeman, we have the look, we have them covered. We don't need to call timeout. There was a bust. There was a score. 7 possessions in the second half for South Carolina. 5 3 and out. 4 of them with negative yards. One was that last drive where they went backwards 30 yards at the end of it, and 1 touchdown on a remarkable leaping catch by the South Carolina wide receiver Xavier Legette. That was a tremendous bounce-back performance in the second half by the defense.
You know, we said, I know we were talking about this before the game. When Notre Dame wins time of possession and when they rush for 200 yards, they win.
Yeah.
It didn't look like they were going to get to 200 yards, and the time of possession was even about midway through the third quarter, but Notre Dame ends up possessing the football for 37 minutes. Yeah. Rushes for 264. And then, as you said, Tim, the defense, I mean, held South Carolina. We're talking about Spencer Rattler here now. Held them to 5 of 15 on third down. Notre Dame ended up being, I believe, 11 of 19 on third down. I mean, just really an incredible performance. And you don't see this happen very often. When it seemed pretty clear to me. I certainly have to change a lot of the things that I was writing in the first half.
You got a rewrite coming, don't you?
Yeah, there's a significant rewrite here because South Carolina looked like the better team. They were the more aggressive team. Yeah. They were the more confident team, and they certainly had the home field advantage here today in TIAA Bank Field. But they turned the tables, and man, you just don't really expect it. Again, because of the crowd and because of the way it's going. And Tyler Buckner hasn't played. Where does his confidence come from?
Right.
But he pulled it together. Tommy Rees, you can criticize coordinators after individual plays, but they got it together in the second half, and they were able to run the football. I mean, most of the time they're just pounding the football, and that's what we said we felt it would become. It didn't look like it at all, but Notre Dame ends up rushing for 264 and holds South Carolina to 62 yards rushing.
Yeah, and closing out a game, Notre Dame converted its last 6 third downs, and I'm not even including the Braden Lenzy 4th down on the fake punt. They also stopped South Carolina on 6 of their last 7 third downs. So that is just completely taking over a game. In the last quarter and a half, I don't have the exact numbers there, it's a dominant second half effort in a game you won by 7 points. It's strange to say it, but it almost would have been a shame to lose that game the way they played in the second half. Where in the first half they looked slower than South Carolina. They were sloppy tackling them. Spencer Rattler looked like a light years better quarterback than the guy Notre Dame had out there. But give Tyler Buckner a lot of credit for fighting back, because 2 interception touchdowns, 1 full field. You'd have trouble completing passes after that if you're a guy that's going to choke, and he didn't choke. He played hard. He got into the game running the ball. I think his ability to run the ball is crucial going forward, because he can keep teams off balance. That can make him a better passer.
We kind of thought that special teams would just be a wash, or that neither team would be able to gain an advantage on the other. We're talking about Pete Lembo and Brian Mason just brainstorming to try to beat the other guy. And I'm sure Brian Mason, he talked about when we were talking to him in December about, hey, we want to be where they are. They were ranked, South Carolina ranked number 1 in overall special teams. Notre Dame still has a ways to go in the return game, to be sure. But I would imagine that Brian Mason will have some things up his sleeve, and they need better skilled people doing it. Chris Tyree gets tripped up. He just gets tripped up way too often. I thought some of the carries that he got down the stretch, it's like, why aren't they feeding the ball to the other 2 backs?
I said that exact thing watching, and they did keep him in for that quick flare pass. Maybe they like him on that. Of course, you can lose Logan Diggs on that too. I'm sure it was part of the plan. But I think we should point out that Marcus Freeman mentioned the fake punt was a look they looked for earlier in the game. They got it, and he said, okay, when you want to do it, do it. Mason called the fake punt, or obviously with Freeman's blessing. And the throwback to Mitchell Evans was off Duo, their favorite running play that, of course, people are getting sick of hearing about because it was getting stuffed once in a while. Well, that was off of Duo, and that was an all throw to Mitchell Evans or nothing else. Buckner was going to get rid of it because that's what the play was for, and it worked like a charm, playing off their favorite running play.
And the second half certainly looked like we've seen Notre Dame in these situations where it's run the ball, run the clock, but you're playing a South Carolina team with a great quarterback, and you had to score. And I thought that they got a little bit more aggressive than they normally do. Obviously, they pounded the football because you could see that, South Carolina's defensive front was getting a little punch drunk at a certain point, and that's what Notre Dame's offensive line does. By the way, Jarrett Patterson, cramps. He did not suffer an injury. He was cramping up. They brought Kristofic in there for what ended up being the game-winning play. That's it tonight. A somewhat improbable Notre Dame victory, but a great effort by Marcus Freeman's squad as they come back and defeat South Carolina 45-38.